Hello, my name is Christopher Whitaker, and I'm here representing Franklin University in the field of qualitative methods. And today I want to give a presentation on sports and labor management. My thesis statement is, do sports reflect negative impacts on fans due to the outcomes of strikes in major professional sports? In two different surveys, I asked members of my class two different types of surveys. One which was focused more on the sports aspect of life, and the other was based off of labor negotiations in life. And within this presentation, I'm going to focus on four main objectives. First, the culturally diversity in sports and whether they were knowledgeable on what sports are and their interests. I want to look at cultural differences they pertained to age, race, and interest in sports to see if there were any patterns. I also want to ask their interpretations and experiences of labor negotiations in their respective fields, and finally, their understanding of sports negotiations and how it's impacted their lives. So the first topic, cultural diversity in sports and whether they were knowledgeable on what sports are and their interests. This was more or less asking them what they thought of sports. 50% of the class was familiar with their local sports teams, and the others were not. It was interesting to see the differences in geographical places when asked what type of teams they had. Some of them had soccer teams, NFL teams, Major League Baseball teams, and Major League Basketball teams. Many of the same individuals that were familiar with their sports teams did attend events. So those same 50%, they actually did go to those events. And when asked, do family members enjoy sports, the answer was overwhelming with 89%, stating that a member in their household either read about sports, watched sports, or actually played them, which is very interesting to see, comparison of it's not what you're asking, but sometimes who you're asking the question to. The second topic is to look at cultural differences they pertain to age, race, and interest in sports to see if there were any patterns. And what this was is I wanted to look at the demographics more importantly. Only three of the participants had active cable services, which shows the importance of the internet. I think this is a big factor with Franklin University, which is not only a national institution, but actually goes out into a global realm. Most surveyors were middle-aged, between the ages of 30 and 39, knowing that they're getting their doctorate. They've gone through their 20s. They're now working forward into their career. And overall, 60% of them of the surveyors were African Americans, 22% were white Caucasian, and 11 were other ethnicities. Third, I wanted to ask their interpretations and experiences of labor negotiations in their respective fields. Half the surveyors never had much experience participating in a union, and none of them were part of any negotiation. It is known that none of the surveyors ever had a work stoppage as a result of a union strike or employee lockout, which you sometimes could benefit or lack someone's career. Of all the surveyors, 60% thought unions were actually a liability to their type of business, 20% thought they were assets, and another 20% weren't really sure what they felt about that. But two surveyors were unsure about joining a new union, with one saying yes and the other saying no. Finally, I wanted to ask their understanding of sports negotiations and how it impacted their lives. Two individuals stating sports work stoppages hindered their experiences. Two stated it enhanced, and one that didn't want to answer at all. So to me, that makes me think and wonder it makes you wonder the thesis statement of whether there is an actual argument, whether sports stoppages hurt or help the ongoing sport itself. They felt that sports figures were two thought that they were overpaid, three thought they were overpaid, while two actually thought that they weren't. Like I said, this adds more to my theory of what an actual individual who might not even be involved or thought of sports might think different. And finally, I wanted to conclude with a couple foods for thought. First and foremost, when you're making a survey, make sure you have the ample number of surveyors to have an accurate data for forming conclusion for a population. For me, it was a struggle because I actually didn't have a lot of surveyors, but did the best I can to actually kind of get a grasp. And I've realized the difference between qualitative and quantitative data is that qualitative is more or less a gray area, but it opens the door to public opinion, where qualitative is more factual. And so I wanted to give that a grasp. And in the end, it all comes down to the fans. And I feel that the fans at this time in our culture have the last say of whether the game will play on. So again, thanks for your time today, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. If you have any questions or comments, please make within the bar below. And thank you very much. Take care.